Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Living on Blockchain. Today, we are speaking to Anthony, aka Burnt Banksy. He really rose to fame when he actually bought a Banksy art piece and burnt it and converted it into an NFT. Currently, he's working on XION blockchain. The idea is to make crypto and Web3 accessible to the end user in the greatest way possible, the most beautiful way possible, perhaps, wherein they don't even need to really understand how the technology works. So this is something that's very close to my heart as well. This was a very interesting conversation. So let's deep dive right in. Hi, Anthony. Thank you so much for making the time to speak to me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is all mine, and I'm so glad we could schedule this considering we are in completely different time zones. But for our listeners, I'm sure that they know and they have a lot of context with your pseudonym, Burnt Banksy. But I would love for you to give a bit of a background about yourself and how you got into Web3, just to give this conversation a little more context.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the background of my name is Burnt Banksy. And the reason I got that name about 3 years ago, I bought a Banksy art piece from a gallery. I'm in New York, obviously, hence the large time zone difference. But and we lit it on fire and sold the we sold the digital as an NFT, which ended up being the highest average price sale on OpenSea for
Hmm.
most of 2021. Kind of gotten global recognition and then still in the Wikipedia for the word NFT to this day.
Wow, that's wonderful. I remember reading about this and I was thinking, this is such mad lad behavior, but I love it. But
Yeah,
what
I mean
kind of,
that was
yeah, but what led you? Like, what was the thinking behind that?
well, there's two schools of thought here.
Hmm.
One of them is like, this is fun. I want to do this. So that's one of them. And then the other
Right.
one was like, obviously, because who doesn't want to light art on fire? I feel like that's every child's dream in some capacity. That or I'm just a pyromaniac. But I think more deep and more kind of serious on that note. We I'd been in crypto for many years before,
Hmm.
and this was at that point where you could have like many crypto punks, and that really wasn't that big of a deal.
Hmm.
Crypto kitties was just kind of the biggest NFT collection.
Right.
And so I used to have a ton, and all my friends outside of crypto and family always to me were saying, if they would always make fun of me. If it wasn't,
Hmm.
you'd always hear the same thing every time. If it's not in my living room, if I can't see it, it's not art. And I said, okay, well, and there's no value to it. So I said, all right, well, let
Hmm.
me take something that quote unquote has value to it, right? Which was this Banksy, sold at a Sotheby's auction, which is, I would like to think a real auction house, and, light it on fire and turn it into an NFT and let's see if it has value. And I think it will. And it did. Suffice to say, anyone wants to put a price tag on value.
Hmm.
But what we kind of really wanted to get out of that was just kind of probably spark the conversation. Um, and so we did, right? And I think we had no expectations that NFTs would be where they are now, but how quickly that kind of concept really took over. Because I think 3 weeks after we did it was the Beeple $69 million auction. And then everything really started steamrolling from there. And it was the start of something awesome. That's
Yeah.
why we're still here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was probably an inflection point, that the entire market saw in terms of
Mhm.
art collectibles and how they perceived NFTs. So that kind of did change. And I think your reasoning for doing something like this is so apt, right? You at times you really need to get people's attention to make them understand something. You need to do something a little outlandish.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what you did. And you kind of got and achieved what you perhaps had in mind.
Yep.
So
Yeah, exactly.
tell us a little about perhaps before that incident. You mentioned that you had been in crypto before. So how did you get into Web3 and crypto? And what were you doing back then?
Yeah, I mean, back then it was I got in through mining, and so I was here in New York during the time,
Right.
and I'll always say, especially if you look at it now, you really have this interesting break in America, which is SF and West Coast seems to be focused on AI, but New York is where crypto is, and it always has been. And so being in New York in
Hmm.
2016, you had Consensus, you had Uniswap, you had pretty much like everything really, really starting here. Which was the most exciting thing, especially for someone to just kind of be learning about something new, right? And so suffice to say, it was impossible to not start getting into crypto. And I started by being just a miner back when Ethereum was proof of work. And one thing ended up leading to another, and it was I couldn't leave. Effectively,
Yeah.
what ended up happening.
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. It's like a rabbit hole once you go down it. And you mentioned that, you started with mining, and that's pretty much how I got into the space as well. And I started even
Mhm.
earlier when even Ethereum was not a thing. So, this is sometime in 2011, 12, and we were mining stuff like Zcash. And
Yep.
it was
Had Zaya
those.
coin or Saya coin.
Yeah, yeah. So that was like those early days. And because I think, you come in because you're curious for the technology. At that point, yes, it was curiosity and,
Yeah.
just the allure of being able to mine some money on your own. That
It was
was the
crazy.
allure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then, you kind of stay for the technology, I think, and just the ethos of the space.
I was gonna say, and the people too. I really,
Yeah.
this is one of those industries that's just absolutely, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Just where you have a really concentrated group of people with very similar ethoses, wanting to spread
Hmm.
very similar messages and wanting to maintain, specific values. And I think you can't. There's not a lot of places. Maybe it's the size of the industry being what it is, but I think the capacity for everyone to be at least somewhat on the same page. Of course, you're gonna have some actors that are not great.
Hmm.
Is beautiful.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no industry like Web3, because as you mentioned, people become like the backbone. I think this is one of the more helpful industries that you can be a part of, where
Hmm.
if you reach out to somebody, you will hear back, and they would be happy
Absolutely.
to lend you a hand, and just because
At
everybody's
any
so
size
excited.
too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's just so excited to it's like we are running a cult. We just get excited that
Uh,
somebody else wants to know about it
yeah.
and learn
Yeah,
and join.
absolutely.
It's probably not the best analogy, but it feels a
Well,
lot
no, it's
like
funny
that.
because we actually call our community a cult.
Yeah.
And so if you look at our Twitter, that we're hiring for two job positions right now. We're
Hmm.
hiring for a cult leader, because it's
Excellent.
exhausting, quite frankly,
Yeah, it is.
and a propaganda specialist.
Wow. Very nice. Scandalous.
So
But
I definitely agree with that logic that crypto is a cult because I
yeah,
love it.
it's to quite a large degree, I think. And all of us just, the builders in the space, I think we all love the technology, the ethos, and everything. And we're just more excited to have more people come along this journey because somehow we truly do believe that this is going to be a major part of the future that we are heading towards.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's nice to be able to like talk to people that you work with and understand
Hmm.
the same goal. And I think you look at narratives in the space and you look at what a narrative is. It kind of feels like a North Star effect, but
Hmm.
you definitely have different people looking at different opportunities to try to actually build towards that. And I think that's something extremely exciting too, because we're so new into this that there are no right answers yet. And whatever
Exactly.
whatever is written ends up being what's wrote. I don't mean obviously, but
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I totally get it. I think the space is very, very dynamic. And this is exactly what I think, tweeted yesterday or today, sometime on X, that there are no experts in the space. The space is way too dynamic for anybody to call themselves an
mhm.
expert. Everything keeps changing. Every day you get up and there is like a ton of new things that have happened and that you have to catch up with. And that is
Yeah.
what makes it even more exciting to be building in this space.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's just so much innovation and things happen, since it's 24/7, you have lessons learned in the traditional markets that end up that end up effectively happening at like 10x the speed. You have
Yeah.
these high highs and these super lows, but it's extremely interesting as it's extremely interesting as we kind of progress where you see things rise and fall so quickly and lessons are learned even quicker.
Right, yeah. So the people who do well here, I think they need to learn and unlearn very quickly, and that I think also keeps you a little young and at the edge of your
You need to be a
seat.
little crazy.
Yeah, yeah, they get that. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. I agree. I think you need to be a little bit of an adrenaline junkie and a little bit mad,
to stay in the
Yes.
space and, cycle after cycle, heartbreak after heartbreak. But, you just sort of come in and you stay for the tech. So, on that note, I would love to know a lot more about what you're building currently. You have a mission as well, but the
Yep.
burnt mission as well as a chain. So could you give us a little macro overview and then we can get into the details?
Yeah, absolutely. And so the idea kind of stemming off of the burnt Banksy was normal people should be able to benefit with crypto. And I think what we're working on with Zion, the easiest way to say our main goal is we're trying to make crypto disappear. Very short and sweet. We don't believe that the barriers of entry need to be here, and I think they're only hindering the industry. And so we're on a mission. We've been building for some odd 2.5 years on Zion specifically in order to break down these barriers of entry. And so it's actually really exciting. Our testnet is live and we have at about 3 million accounts, 3 million unique users, I should say.
Wow.
And about 40 million transactions, whether that be projects deployed with us or kind of what we're pioneering with our chain abstraction. I think it's interesting as you look at our North Star being, Web 2 should be synonymous with Web 3, and there shouldn't be this like other land.
Yeah, I think that kind of becomes very resistive, right? If you want to really onboard the next million users, you can't say that, okay, this is like a huge, it is a paradigm shift, but the user doesn't have to know. And frankly, the user doesn't really care, right?
Yeah, exactly. They shouldn't need to.
Yeah, exactly. You're online. A lot of people are online, or even people, all of us are using electricity nowadays, at least the privileged ones are in several parts of the world. Then, they don't necessarily understand the ins and outs of everything, but, you are utilizing it because it's solving a problem for you. And that is exactly how it should be with Web3.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And we should be able to just have this conversation on Zoom and not need to know exactly everything that goes on. And imagine if it took me 25 minutes and I had to use 4 separate applications to log onto this call. That's not
Wouldn't
fun.
do it. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's going to do it.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
No one's going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody has the kind of attention span anymore. Moreover, nobody has the kind of time. So it needs to be easy and it needs to be convenient, I think. So let's talk a little bit more about Zion. And, you said that, you guys have been working on it for 2 odd years and now your testnet is live, and kudos on the kind of traction that you mentioned. But would love to perhaps, if you had to explain this to somebody who is like a lay person, but does understand different chains, what makes your chain stand apart? And is it like an L2? Is it like an L1? Could you elaborate a little on that?
Absolutely. We are the first and only walletless L1. And so understandable, a big issue and one of the largest hurdles is this concept of wallets. And so once you can remove wallets and everything, putting onto these A as a smart contract account and then B on the protocol level, getting into the technicals doesn't really matter, but you observe, as anyone who's ever tried to onboard the crypto, that's the main barrier. And so you actually get a lot of things that's solved by removing all wallets. You can use crypto on any device. I was actually just on a Stairmaster earlier today at the gym, and I was interacting with this XION chain through the little interface. People are doing it from their Apple Vision Pro or their Xbox. And so being able to kind of go on any device, not having to worry about this concept of gas fees, everything's denominated in dollars. Once you're walletless, you actually expand to a level that's completely unbeknownst to the industry because obviously we're the only ones kind of doing it. But you look at kind of where our traction is and, where I'd point the success of that traction to, it's that no one knows that they're interacting with crypto and it feels like just another website, as a matter of fact.
Okay, wonderful. So basically, you're making access very least resistive and easy for the end user.
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little about the kind of applications that are being, or the use cases for this particular chain that you've seen so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we always have like a small joke, which is, we've built such great tools. We built such great tools for onboarding and completely abstracting the crypto that anyone's grandmother could use the chain. But not many people's grandmothers are going to be slinging perpetuals all day, right? It's just not what it is.
Right.
So for us,
but no, it's a wonderful way of putting it. Yeah.
Thank you. But, kind of suffice to say, it's obviously extremely exciting. And, you know, as it kind of relates, they're not going to be slinging perpetuals, right? We've done just a great job at building great onboarding tools, not for people to go trade dog with hat token. Not to say that I don't, but that's a crypto user. That's not the user that we target. And the user that we target is this kind of everyday user, by actually saying, hey, we understand that there needs to be a reason why you use things, and we need to cross this chasm. We need to cross the chasm from this early tech adopter to this kind of mainstream user base. And I believe that the way to do that is to go to them, but then B, be able to like give them a reason to use something, not simply because it's a narrative, like crypto.
Right. Right, absolutely. I think, the way you've kind of put it gives everybody building in this space something to think about. And more power to you for being able to do this. So, whenever anybody is building like a layer one chain, it's usually said in the industry that you need like a war chest to really go about doing it and be able to penetrate and get enough traction in the market. What is your take on that? How have you been able to build like an exciting community around your chain?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that also is kind of a sign of the times as well, because I think before, when we talk about chain abstraction, the first thing that when we set out on being kind of this layer one was refusing to be isolationist. And I think in that capacity, when you don't have the network effects that come with crypto, then you need a war chest. Obviously, I think to date we've raised $36 million with a very recent $25 million Series A. But suffice to say, we're not trying to say, hey, let's steal users from Solana, steal users from Aptos. Where we kind of act, and we actually, when I say going to other chains, we're pioneering a kind of an initiative called chain abstraction, which effectively says, hey, it doesn't matter what chain you're on. We're just going to work with the products. And so we actually just had a live demo with a blockchain called Neutron yesterday, which had the most IBC channels ever created. We did this with Solana, BNB, Avalanche, Injective, Saga, and more that we've done and more to come. But, in that capacity, we need to be collaborative as we go to the future, and we can't really be competitive. And I think if you want to try to be competitive and you want to say, hey, we're going to completely reinvent the wheel and everyone needs to change all the user behaviors, then yes, I believe that you need a war chest. But I think when everyone benefits, which in my mind should be kind of the default, I think, you're playing in a different ballpark.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think if you're able to collaborate, and especially with what you're doing, like you said, you did a live demo and, you're not competing with the chains. You're just providing perhaps an additional layer, which makes it easier for the users. Obviously, there is a lot more going in the background, but for the user, it's more like an intermediary that kind of makes it easy for them to access different kind of applications in the Web3 ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And, I think you have this large vision where I'm just using the internet and I'm using applications and I'm playing games and I don't have to change flows, right? I can go from YouTube to Google to TechCrunch, and I don't have to know what chain I'm on or re-up or bridge or send. We're going to get to a future, and I think that future is actually very, very soon, where we're just interacting, right? Like we're just using the tools, we're just using applications and not needing to know exactly where, what chain we're on or what interoperability solutions we're using. And I think once you look at it into that perspective of, layer one has a sour name because I think honestly, from what I remember, like bridging was not really a thing up until 2021. So like when Solana came out the gates, it was one of those things that you needed to be, you needed to redefine your industry. And I think we're at a point within composability and interoperability where that's not really the case anymore.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've come so far in terms of where we used to be now, as you mentioned, that there is so much more conversation and action around interoperability. I believe that is how, a solution like yours is possible, right? This is perhaps a little akin to wallet abstraction, but obviously on a much larger scale.
Exactly. Nailed it.
So, you guys have also had a recent, exciting development with EarnOS partnership. So can you tell us a little about that, and what are the key benefits for users and brands involved in this collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. So for people who don't know at home, EarnOS is a project that deployed on us. Very, very exciting project, I would say, which is, they take this concept of questing that's been very keen in the Web3 industry. Companies like Galaxy or Zeely, there's a lot of them. But they say, hey, we could actually take this and apply this to Web 2 and use the power of XION to effectively remove all crypto away. And so what you also find out in events like this is once you remove this kind of solutionism from crypto by removing the crypto, they answer the question of, wow, it's actually impossible to send $5 to 2 million people. You can't do that without crypto. Especially globally, that's impossible. So it's literally an unsolved problem that is solved by crypto. And especially if, working with Uber growth in Japan, this is something that if Japan wants to enter, Uber wants to enter a Japanese market or any Southeast Asian market or something like that, and want to be able to distribute, direct marketing to people, so people can say, sign up for the email, watch an ad, here's $5. That's not possible, right?
Right.
And it's a win for the brands because there's so much money burned in marketing, and so going directly to the source is incredible. And then then it's a win for the users because I'm making money by just watching advertisements.
Right. Okay. This is a very interesting use case. So, what were the kind of perhaps can you share like a key metric or some sort of anecdote or a success
So
story?
I think they had I think they personally, I mean, they launched maybe 3 weeks ago, and I think had over 200,000 users. I think I know they have multiple $1 million in committed spend from, a bunch of these brands, and the brands they're working with are impressive. It's Uber, it's Lacoste, it's Sunglass Hut, it's the North Face. It's brands that are household names, and something like a Sunglass Hut, I believe. I don't remember the exact stat, but I think they tripled their following and then had a 5,000% increase in their engagement rate. In I think a week, which is incredible. It's incredible, and it just shows you, after that it's and this was on testnet. The money wasn't even real. This was on the XION testnet, and so when this actually becomes real money distributed, imagine that.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
It's very exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting especially with, as you mentioned, these are all household, very well-known brands. In every house, everybody knows of these brands, and that is super exciting. So what are your kind of strategies for expanding the ecosystem of projects on XION chain? Like how do you want to go about doing that? Obviously, one way is through these very exciting collaborations, but what are the other key strategies that you guys have in your armor?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is that, right? I think we offer, a lot of incubation and a lot of help. Whether it be working with companies who want fundraising, the idea of building an ecosystem, and you kind of see this a lot with crypto, unfortunately, which is you get like this grant meta. But it's not really sustainable. And for those who don't understand the concept of the grant meta, I'll give you $50,000, you build on us, whatever. And it's very short-sighted, and it's and it's not sustainable. And so when we talk about something like an EarnOS or an Animation Plus, every project that we work with, I would say we act like an incubation or like an accelerator more than anything. Because I think that's what thrives the company. And once you're in this industry for 7, 8, 9, 10, however many years, you understand that everything comes in cycles. And yes, there's going to be ups, yes, there's going to be downs, but longevity is the only thing that is the main focus.
Right, absolutely. I think what you're saying in terms of, how that is very short-sighted, these grant programs and chains asking these startups to build on them. I agree. It's very akin to perhaps airdrops and, financially incentivizing users to utilize a certain product that, you're building.
Yeah, exactly. And there's always going to be, you know, the the proof will be seen long, long in the future, right? And it's good and bad.
Yeah.